Just scrolling through my list of blog topics, and then just there was one that hit me last night, and I happened to recall it, and it's something I haven't talked about in a long time. Um, you come here, and how is your relationship with the Thai men going to be related to your relationship with the Thai women? Because that was something that was kind of on my mind when I got here. Like, are these guys going to be resenting it, or and the Thai responses from any group of people is going to run the gamut, obviously. Generally speaking, Thais are very private and very private about their emotions and their true thoughts. Again, the cultural standard, this is important for you to know, and in this case it is important also. The cultural standard for Thai people, and including Thai men, is to be extremely jai-di, extremely good-hearted and generous and kind and humble and all these things. And so a foreigner could be flexing all over them and stealing the hottest looking babe in the village, and they could be deeply resentful, and you'll get a smile and a sawadee and a why if they perceive you as observing the culture in any way, and they feel it's going to be appropriate for them to look good to give you a why and sawadee you really nicely. And so you're going to have like almost no indicators of how people feel about you. And I think about it this way. I remember watching an interview with a American man who worked in Japan for an extended period of time, and one of his things he really didn't like about it was the fact that the Japanese were so polite that they could absolutely hate your guts, his words, and you would have absolutely no idea. And nobody wants to be the butt of the joke, right? Hey, who cares, Rob? You can't care what other people think. It's all about I'm so strong-willed, I just don't care. Well, you're gonna care because you don't really want to treat a bunch of people to dinner and they're all later on or even at the dinner texting about what a dick you are. I mean, is that fun? I don't think that's fun for anybody. So the reality is you do kind of want to know. So mostly the topic of this video really isn't about that, though. That's peripheral. The real point I want to talk about is who are you going to be dating, what kind of ladies are you going to be spending your time with, and what women do the Thai men like to spend their time with. And there's quite a divergence, which is wonderful, which is really wonderful. And that was one of the few things I understood correctly before I got here. And as my dating immediately, when I landed, my dating was focused, because I was looking for a partner. I'm a relationship guy. I can admit that about myself. And with my health issues, I mean, part of me, yeah, just wants to wander the world aimlessly, me and my nunchucks, and just wander around and not fear any soy dog and not fear anything and do my stuff. But that isn't super realistic at this point. So I need help, and Fawn's fantastic help, and she's so darn cute. And anyway, that's a whole other thing. But so no, praise God. There is a huge divergence in the women we tend to seek versus the women that the Thai men tend to pursue. I'll just say pursue. Because way less, and I think it's even maybe lower than 20%, but way less than 50% for sure of the Thai women I know who are married are happy with their husband's behavior. Now, I tend to know mostly Thai women because through Fawn I socialize. 80% of my social life is through Fawn. And so I know a lot of women, and I hear what they think, and I find it interesting what they think. I do. I just have always been kind of a culturally curious guy, as I've said before, and to your benefit, because now I got a channel, so there you go. But they're pretty unhappy and with pretty legitimate grievances, like he doesn't contribute financially to the household, doesn't give me anything to feed the children with. He's drunk every night, he's gambling every night, he's got 3 girlfriends. These to me seem like legitimate grievances. I'm kind of kidding. But I'm not saying everyone's bad, but you get where that goes. But back to the point. So stereotypically, most commonly what you hear, most commonly what I see is foreign men come here and they tend to date the lower class Thai women. It's just true. Thai men tend to focus and navigate towards the beauty standard here. Let me back up a sec. The beauty standard here for women is kind of the most beautiful women are considered if they look a little Korean. That's just what the Thais. That's just they love Korean culture. They watch Korean soap operas. They love K-pop music, and the Korean female actresses and superstars and singers and such. That's the look, baby. And so that's no surgery, lighter skin. Talked about this. Colored hair. Very modern appearance, which I love the fact they call it this, at least in the villages, maybe everywhere, I don't know. I suspect it's everywhere, but in the villages, that's known as Suai Peng, which is pretty, its literal translation is pretty expensive, which is kind of funny because that's just a twist on English. That's a coincidence. They're not really trying to say that, but it's more like pretty, although expensive. My point there is that Thai men tend to go for the lighter skinned, more modern appearance, okay? If that's what you're looking for, you'll be competing more with them, and that's going to be much harder for you. That's going to make it much, you need to hear me, much more difficult. If you're going to pursue a Thai woman with light colored skin, with the modern, sophisticated beauty, which often involves a lot of cosmetic surgery, and you won't know they've had cosmetic surgery unless you've really developed an eye for it. It takes a while to develop that eye. The Thai women are pretty. You probably agree with me, or you wouldn't be thinking of coming here. The Thai women are pretty, anyways. I mean, I think they're amongst the absolute most beautiful women in the world. They really are. I think the Thai women are very pretty. And something about their skin, their facial structure, there's something, and the surgeons here are obviously very skilled. And it isn't just surgeons, it's the clinics. They do these clinical treatments where it's amazing, you'd be shocked at what someone can do to shape their face without actual surgery. You'd be shocked. If you don't know, you would not believe it, okay? And their cute little faces just take to those treatments really well, seamlessly. And it's almost impossible to tell. And a woman who's nice looking to begin with, whatever, reasonable, average. An average Thai woman is quite pretty to me by American standards, but they become very, very pretty. And the Thai men go for that in waves. And if that's what you want, that's a really rigorous dating environment. Maybe I'll try and touch on that if I have time. The other thing Thai men tend to go for, it's two things that I see regularly, real commonly, and hear of all the time. And then those women will be perceived as chansung, which is high class. Chansung, high class, literally class high. Whether they are or not, they will be able to push off that perception with the addition of an expensive handbag, and you get where that goes. That they can kind of wear that well if they want, and most people will probably buy into that, okay, to at least a point. But then the Thai men go for their actual high-class women, Bangkok educated, big university, upper bank management, all these things, and they're going for those ladies, actual high class from a wealthy family that owns hundreds of rice farm or an automotive business and there are Thais here. You're gonna think, oh wow, Rob, this is a poor country. Man, there are people here there's a lot of them. There's a surprising percentage. It's a tiny minority. Obviously, it's way under 3% or something of the population. It's probably way under 1%. But there's a small number of people here that are like almost wealthy beyond American extreme wealth. They're worth $1 billion US. They're worth 300 million US, and they're here, where every one of those US dollars translates to 35.5 of their dollars. So they're really rich. There's a lot of people like that, and you get I know a family in our village. They're building a house in US dollars that's 300 grand US. They're building a house that's 300 grand. So they're probably worth over $1 million US, I would guess. I know they own several businesses around the city. So, some of these people are richer than we are, So, and then the Thai men go for that. So kind of two kinds. So I got a little distracted there. But there's the real upper class, and then the women that just have that sort of pop star, superstar kind of look, okay? And typically we don't. Typically your average foreign guy comes here, and I'm going to say Falang, a Westerner, because that's really what I can speak to. The Westerners I see, tend to go for the absolutely at least 50%, but I think the percentage is way higher, marry sex workers. Is odd. Does that sound going to maybe sound to you? That's just the reality of it. Guys just, and I've talked to many guys that have done that, and they just sort of talk themselves out of admitting that reality. And I don't say a word. It is not my job to burst someone's bubble. And just because I bump into someone at a bar, or I've had 2 or 3 conversations with them because they live somewhere peripheral to Nansung or something or whatever, I've got no mission. I have no interest in proving I'm right over anybody else. You might notice that on the channel. I qualify what I say, and then I just say it, and that's it. And I get comments on the channel, and I've had people comment just very ignorantly. Literally everything they've just said is incorrect. They'll make a comment, and they'll make 4 or 5 points. Every single point is incorrect. Absolutely, I know the metaphysical certitude is incorrect. And as long as the comment isn't mean or hateful or baiting or some other kind of problem, I'll let it stand. If I find it extremely misinforming the way they've said it, I might take it down. But you get that. Anyways, I have no idea what percentage of Thai men do that, but I think it's a drastically lower percentage, like drastically lower. The couple of guys, I hadn't thought about that before I just made this video, made that comment, but a couple of Thai men that I've known that do have wives that are sex workers working for them. Scamming foreigners. I know of 2, and their wives just they have a scam business going. I know of one fairly well, and they're pretty morally repugnant individuals, both of them really. But I see the wife from time to time. She is around town somewhere where I might just physically walk across her from time to time. I try not to speak to her. I want nothing to do with her. I'm going to do the biblical thing of shake the dust off my sandals as I'm walking away. I don't want anything to do with that person. So sorry, that's just how I feel. But no, so we tend to do that. That's in my observation and in my opinion here in the central Isan region, suburban Kolat, the city of Kolat, K-O-R-A-T, pronounced Kolat here locally. That's real common. Guys tend to go for the sex workers, which typically are bar girls, go-go bars. A bar girl, when I say bar girl, I'm thinking the girl she's a service. She's serving food and alcohol, and then she's serving other things as well. And then a go-go bars where their primary, ostensible role is dancing, but then they're doing other things as well. And then there's massage. And here in Kolat and Nansung, 90% of the time, massage means massage. And the tourist areas, again, I'll pick on Pattaya as the biggest one, but also, apparently some people don't know this, but Koh Samui and Phuket also have districts, not the whole islands, but districts that do provide those services. And again, massage in those areas then will 90% of the time mean something other than massage. You might not even get a massage out of the whole thing. I don't know. I've literally never done that, and it's just probably not where my head is at. But that's okay. I'm focused on my pain levels. That's my focus, and my motorcycling. So that's my focus. So guys tend to do that, and they kind of talk themselves out of the fact that that's a professional sex worker. That they were doing that for you, but only for you. You're special. And that's okay if they're happy and the girl doesn't end up scamming them. And sometimes it does have a happy ending. Most of the people that I know, it does not. It's going abysmally. It crashes and burns in the most ugly fashion, all at the great expense emotionally and financially of the foreign guy that married the sex worker. He's decimated emotionally and decimated. Look up the definition of the word decimated financially. That's really ugly, but that happens. And then some people end up physically injured after it's all done. You get a little topper at the end, just to make sure you know who's what. Not uncommon. Be careful with that. Anyways, on a more positive front, though, so we tend to date different. So Thai men don't get really that jealous about you dating that lady that they're not really that interested in anyways. And in general, they're very good-hearted people. I find them, all the politeness aside, it's very hard to tell what someone's truly thinking. I can tell a little bit now. Sometimes it kind of shows through a little bit. When I got here, I was ignorant of all of it. I kind of see it a little bit now, but none of this feels fun in the least. And fun's very honest with me. It's one of the really almost unique things about her. She's super honest and transparent with me about things, and I like that. I really like that. And she'll tell me what's kind of going on, and it's amazing when someone's smiling and bowing and being polite. I mean, they're really don't have your best interest at heart. You know, you do, and you can get to those kind of situations a little bit. But most of the time, it's just for your knowledge that we date very differently than they do, and there isn't really a problem. And generally, there won't be a problem because the Thais are very polite, very gracious. They're very gracious with us. As much as out here, most of the foreigners I know behave various degrees of badly. The guys I'm friends with don't. They're not like that at all. The guys that I'm friends with speak Thai at least a way above average level to unbelievably good. Observe and respect and care about the culture and are curious about the culture at a high level, and are generally kind of more humble kind of people. And they get along real well with the Thais around them. They do. But the other people that I see over here talking, I see how they behave, I see who they're partnered with, they're behaving very differently. And the Thais are very gracious about that. There seems to be, and I don't know that there is because I don't know anything about Buddhism. I'm just not here on a religious studies trip. I'm just not. I've got my own beliefs already and I'm fine. But it does seem like there's some kind of thing in Buddhism or Thai culture maybe, I'm not sure where, but they seem extremely reluctant for one person to tell another person how to live or what to do. It seems to be a live and let live sort of culture. Where it comes from probably doesn't really matter to us, but it matters that it is there. And they tend to just leave us alone. It's really the expats making the problems generally is what I see, unfortunately. The Thais generally, you might get the occasional, I get the rare dirty look or something, but it's funny. And it's such a cultural thing that a lot of women really believe you can only get a foreign husband by working in a bar and being a sex worker. They think that's the only way. And I can't tell you how many times Fawn has been asked, and it's a kind of a hurtful question, but they're not trying. They're just asking an honest question. How did you get a foreign husband? What bar did you work at? I didn't know you were a sex worker before. Those are the queries she gets, and she does take offense because she's very proud of her government job and her traditional family. They don't believe in any of that kind of activity. That's not their belief system. But it is kind of funny that it's such a thing. And Fawn does get the irony. She pointed this irony out to me, so she does get it. That here she is, a good government, nice Isan daughter doing the right thing, and then she gets all these ugly questions. Unfortunately for her, but she takes it pretty well. Anyway, so there's a little bit on how we date here, how we kind of engage in the culture here, what the kind of landscape you're looking at, and if you like the village girls, I like the tan little village girl thing. That's my deal, and that's fun, as you can see. And the Thai men don't really go for that as much. And then you're not at competition with them. You're not at cross purposes with them. It is a lot easier. It's a lot easier, and there's much more ladies to choose from. I think you can find a nicer, your odds of finding a nice, good, legitimate lady that cares for you are much higher. Can you find a smoking hot 26-year-old Thai woman that's had a ton of plastic surgery that looks like a Korean superstar that really loves you? I'm sure you can. I've heard of one or two guys claiming that's the case. I don't know anybody in that environment. I don't know them. I don't know anybody I don't personally know anyone that does that has done that. There's no law in the universe that says you can't. But the odds are going to be way against you. And most guys die on that hill trying to do that. And I guess that's life. So there you go. Bye. My name is Rob, and thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. I meant every word I just said with respect.